right, so we got that going. And then now at this point, we could take this sample that we recreated and then drag it over here to the gray area to where we see quick sampler. I'm gonna pull up the musical typing just so you can see what I'm playing here.
Remaking basics.
What's going on YouTube? Beat Making Basics back again with another dope video. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe and also give me a thumbs up if you like the content. What we're going to be covering today is how to create or actually remix or remake your own samples. So for instance, say if there's a piece of music that you want to remake or remake exactly like or remake somewhat like, and then use it as your own sample. This is what this lecture is going to be covering. Let's jump right into it. So first things first, you got to find a sample. What I did is I actually went to YouTube and I went to the audio library. You can actually type in certain things like groovy or, you know, jazz or whatever, and you can find music that you can use royalty free. So like if you look at the license type right here, it's going to tell you the detail of the license. I actually am gonna we're gonna be remaking this Disco Nights track, and if you scroll over it, you can see that you're free to use this audio track in any of your videos, including videos that you monetize. No arbitration is required. So if you want to read more on that, you can just go to details. Anyway, I downloaded this already, and so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna pull that up. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to drag this into Logic Pro 10. All right, cool. So next thing we need to do is find the overall BPM of this particular sample. And the way we're going to do that is I'm actually going to come, if you look at the wave file, you can actually kind of see where the beginning of the file is. And so we're going to basically come right here to the beginning of the file. From there, I can just take this, push enter, and push the semicolon. That's going to bring it to the very beginning. Another way to do this is obviously to go over here on the actual track that you have it listed, and then they also have a meter that you could put on there to find the BPM. So under metering, you can do BPM counter, put that on there, and push play. All right, so this is saying it's at 118. All right, cool. So it's at 118 BPM. It's pretty much we're gonna just roll with that. I'm not going to overly do this. We're gonna just get this first part. So basically, we're gonna remake this first part. So what you want to do is, you got your sample right here. A couple things to keep in mind is the playhead and how the sample looks. Okay, so for instance, you can move this playhead over to the left or right, and if you look at the actual sample, you can see where the sample goes a little larger. That's usually the beginning of a new note. Okay, so, or a phrase or something. So like for instance right here. You see what I'm saying? So like right here, that's the beginning of that note. You get it? So you want to use the playhead to find certain places within this loop where the notes are that you're going to be remaking. And after that, the next thing to do is listen to the sample and find out like what instruments that you got to replay. So for instance, let's listen to it. We'll figure out what's the first instrument we want to look at. All right, bet. So I hear in this one, I hear a bass. I hear a guitar. And I hear some piano, like really electric piano. So those are our main instruments that we have to recreate. I'm not going to worry about the drums because we're going to do that later. So I'm going to go ahead and put this filter back on here just to get rid of the high-end percussion sounds and stuff like that so we can really focus in. All right, bet. So since it's a remake, it doesn't have to be perfect as far as the loop and everything, just as long as you can get the basic elements of the track. Once you have that, then we're going to actually go through here and find each instrument, you know, within Logic Pro 10. So for instance, we're going to go with a default patch instead, actually. And we'll come over here to our library, and then we can just type in the instrument that we're looking for. So we're looking for a bass. We can just test out some of these basses and see if they sound kind of like what we're looking for. Or you can just go into the categories and say, all right, bass right here. Let's try this bass. That's probably a better bass to work with. So now that we have our first instrument, now what we'll do is we're actually going to take this guy right here, move him up. And we're going to make sure, if you don't have the piano roll feature already selected, all you need to do is just click on the scissors. And this is what we're going to be creating our melody in. So this is the piano roll. This is the playhead. And within here, this is called the grid. If you look right here from 1 to 2, that's a measure. And then you see 16 little notches right here. Those 16 notches represent 1/16 of a measure. This represents 1/4 of a measure. Go from right here to right here. This is half of a measure, and then this is a whole measure. And basically, you're going to be finding where the notes are playing within this sample. As you can see, the playhead is moving here in this grid right here and up here. So you want to pay attention to both. You can just kind of zoom in here to where, yeah. There we go. And then zoom in there. So now we have basically the whole sample right here that we can visually see. And then we also have this area right here where we can plug the notes in. So what we're going to be doing is listening to this sample to listen for just the bass right now. So let's listen to the bass, and anywhere you hear a note, we're going to play that note or plug it in here on the grid. All right. So if you listen to it, the bass note makes this sound. Doom, doom. Bet. So now we know that's a G. And we'll go down here and make it a little lower. And now we can just type that in by holding down Command and drag this out. All right, bet. So now that we got that first note, I can come over here and just start, based on where you see this playhead go, wherever you hear that second note, that's where you want to go ahead and lay your second note down. So check this out. So boom, boom. And we don't want to get too complicated. Just get the main notes first. You can always draw in the other notes later. So boom, boom, boom. You're gonna sound it out. So now that we got those first three notes, we just gotta keep on going through the process. And you're just paying attention to what's going on this side right here as you're laying the notes down here. All right, bet. So now that we have our basic pattern here, I can come in and then draw in like the more difficult parts. I actually believe that some of this is going to be moved over some. So we'll nudge it. Let's listen to it without this sample. And I actually like the jazzy vibe of it, so we'll move it back in place. All right, so bet. And obviously you can go in here and get more detailed and actually put in all the different nuances of the bass. So listen to it without it. Boom, 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 boom. So you can put that in there as well, or you can just keep it simple like this and just get the simple bass line. But for this particular lecture or you know, video, I'm gonna keep it simple, and we'll move on to the next part. So we're gonna grab now the electric guitar. So we'll go over here with software instrument, default patch, create, and then we're gonna look for electric guitar. That's scrolled over. We'll go to guitar, and we'll find a guitar that was gonna fit that. I think it's gonna be this classic clean. All right, bet. So now we can listen and remake that guitar part. I'm just gonna bring this on over here like this. Pay attention to the play head over here and down here. You can see basically where everything's hitting. So check this out. So that's where the next note should be. And I know it's that note because I can just sound it out. So I can mute this out if you want, and then listen to it again, you'll see. And as you can see, the play head is right here. That's where the next note is going to be. The play head is right here. That's where the next note is going to be. Come over here, unmute this. And we know the next note is going to be right here based on this play head and based on the look of the actual sample. Again, as I was telling you earlier, see how the sample is a little bit bigger right here. So you know that that part is the beginning of a new note. So now we can just listen to this again and see what this note should be. All right, so we got two notes. One note's going to be right here, and the next note's going to be right here. Again, pay attention to the play head here and here. That's a note. Right there is a note. This is a note. You feel me? So now we want to redo that dun dun dun. So obviously you can move this over here to the beginning right here. You know there's going to be a note right here. Come back over here. Now let's listen to it. And you can see that's the beginning of that next note. Come back over here. Basically, I just split this, move this up. Now let's listen to it without the sample. You'll hear how it sounds pretty similar to it because we just replay the notes. Turn this bass back on. Let's listen. Now, after you got your basic patterns here, I can come over here, highlight, like clicking the grid, push Command A to highlight everything. Right click on one of the notes and go over here to Force Legato, and that's going to move the notes to the very end of each note. Make sure it's done over here in the bass. And now let's play it and listen how it sounds. Bet. So now we're really recreating this sample, as you can hear. I would go ahead and solo this out again. And again, remember, we have a third melody that we have to play. It's what you play with the electric piano. So I'm gonna click off of this and we'll listen for that electric piano. I can come over here, actually create a new software instrument track, go to default patch, and I could just go, this is a classic electric piano right here. So and I know these are chords, but if you can find at least one note within that chord, then you can always build your chords around that after you have your bass notes or have a note that's in the chord on here. So I'll show you what I mean. Again, we want to match everything up with the sample. Looking at the sample right here with the playhead here, you see how the playhead is moving down there within the grid. So as long as you line that up, you'll be fine. So let's listen to it again. You can always mute it out right here just to listen to this better. Okay, come over here. Alright, bet. So now that we have those, we can pretty much come in here and build chords based on these notes right here. So basically what I did is held down Option, grabbed here, and then brought that down to create another note. All right, and so basically what I did here is I sounded out some chords. You basically, I mean, you could use theory on this, but if you just kind of play around with nudging the notes up or down, you'll kind of hear like if that chord will sound right with that pattern. You feel me? And after you do that, you could just kind of basically come around here and adjust things the way it needs to be adjusted until you remake the pattern. So now what we'll do is we'll play those three tracks together, and you're gonna hear how this sample sounds very similar. So let's just check that out now. And so as you can hear, this actual chord is off, so maybe we need to, make some adjustments to it. And you can keep on playing around with that chord till you find the right notes. All right, dope. So now we have the sample remade. The only other thing that I would do to it is just maybe, mix the sample and add some effects. So I think the bass is good where it's at. Maybe take this down some, take it to the left or the right. Same thing with the piano. Tuck that in. Bet. So now we have this. I can come over here if I want to and like maybe add a little bit of reverb. So I can come over here, grab this Valhalla Room, plug in. Let's play around with that. All right, cool. And once you got everything to where you want it, I can come over here to the very end right here, scroll in here. I can highlight everything and then right click on it. And we're going to do what's called bounce in place. Bounce that in place. We could just say soul sample remake. And now I have this full sample right here that I just remade based off of this. Let's listen to it. And now I can come over here and do stuff like, okay, let me add this isotope vinyl plugin. Give it some vibes here. Let's listen to it. So we got that going. And then now at this point, we could take this sample that we recreated and then drag it over here to the gray area to where we see quick sampler. And now, once this finishes creating it, I got this whole new sample that I remade. You watched us do it, you know what I'm saying? And we can use this in our productions. So I'm gonna go ahead and we'll mute this. And now I can bring this quick sampler up and I can do some cool stuff like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and lock it in place on the follow tempo here. I can come over here and reverse it if I want. And since it's, you know, locked in the quick sampler, I can play it at different keys. I'm gonna pull up the musical typing just so you can see what I'm playing here. And you can kind of see how this can be a dope tool for your arsenal when it comes to, you know, making your own samples and stuff like that. If you do enough remakes, then you start to understand, hey, this is how I can build my own samples. All right, bet. So that's pretty much the lecture, or I don't want to call this a lecture, man, but this is the video. I appreciate y'all watching. Make sure that you go ahead and subscribe to my channel here. If you have any questions, man, let me know. I'm also doing one-on-ones. I have courses that I'm selling. I also have, you know, sound packs and different things like that. Just go to beatmakingbasics.com. Everything's there. You can book time with me, or you can continue to, you know, like and subscribe to this channel as well. So I appreciate y'all. I'll see you in the next one. We're out.